to the Convenient Commander podcast, where we try to make cEDH convenient for everyone. I'm one of your hosts, Mason.
And I'm your co-host, Jared, aka JB Gardner. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about what our winter roster, cEDH roster, looks like for 2024 for this season, what it was that we were playing for fun, bringing to a tournament, and things like that.
So, I guess the first thing we should get out of the way is, what is a roster? So, JB, what's a roster?
So, I would consider a roster to be just something that a list of decks, maybe it's 3 or 4 decks that you have that are things that you're rotating through as you're playing with your friends, things that you're kind of testing out, things that you want to be bringing to tournaments, and overall, a roster is just kind of like your cEDH team in that way. So, for example, sometimes I have 4 decks in my roster just because if somebody's new to cEDH come to the table, or I have some friends that are new, we can always represent a pot of 4. Yeah. Right now, I'm specifically trying to attack the meta pretty hard, so I'm going in on 3 decks today. And I always like to have at least 1 stacks deck, 1 mid-range deck, and 1 turbo deck in my roster, just so I can rotate through them as I'm playing my games and just kind of gauge how is it doing against the meta, how much fun do I have playing it, just to kind of innovate within the space, because I think innovation is really important in cEDH.
It really is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Creativity is like the biggest thing that sets you apart, because if there were no innovation, no creativity in the format, it's everybody playing the best decks, everybody's playing the exact same list, and then it just comes down to player skill, which is a good thing, and that is what a lot of tournaments represent. But I really like the creativity of cEDH and being able to bring your own brew. It reminds me of seeing, wasn't there a sign of the Ur-Dragon in the top forward?
Yeah, isn't that nuts, right? So
That's
nuts. So stuff like that'll happen, right? Like you'll find that as you play multiple cEDH decks, you'll find like certain things that one deck might be doing better than the others, and you can lean into that thing.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. You've had this roster for a bit. Like, how do you feel about it? And why do you think it's nice to have a roster of decks that you're trying rotating through, rather than just one deck that you're just grinding super hard all the time and that's all you play?
Personally, it's the variety. I cannot play the same deck for a long time.
Same.
Even if I'm playing said deck for, let's say, a year, I'm gonna have other decks that I keep jumping to back and forth. I'm never gonna play the same deck for weeks in a row of just like the same thing every game. I want to change it up. I like the variety. I know some players, however, are like that, where they will just have the one deck and they just like upgrading that deck and just focusing on optimizing that as much as possible.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm just more of a variety person, and I like the change. I personally like just playing whatever deck seems fun at the time, although recently I have cracked into what's more of a meta commander, rather than I'm purposely choosing these commanders that are outside the meta, that are more fringe cEDH.
Right. Yeah, I think it's cool to have like a diversity in there too. And I think for me personally, just to bounce off of what you were saying, like I really appreciate the difference in play styles that cEDH can offer. Like, I'm not always in the mood to be super proactive. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not always in the mood to be the guy that everyone answers. Maybe I just came off from work and I'm tired and I want to play some stacks. I just want to chill with my little stacks pieces and my advantage engines and just relax. Like that to me is a fun way.
You just want to chill on your stacks pieces
and just relax. Yeah, bro. Just do beats.
It's like, no, I'm gonna chill by locking you out of the game.
We're all gonna calm the hell down. We're gonna play one spell a turn.
I'm gonna watch you get salty as I'm just chilling here.
Yeah, exactly. In cEDH we do so many busted things. Sometimes it's just nice just to cruise, even if people don't want to. It's just fun sometimes. So, and then there's sometimes where you want to be mid-rangey, where you want to be the grindy deck answering everybody and presenting wins with a very variable play style, can win at any moment type of thing. Windows vary, whereas sometimes you want to be turbo. It's like, the longer this game goes on, the more likely I am to lose, so I'm just going to jam it as fast as possible. So
jeez.
So sometimes it's fun to have that diversity there.
It really is.
Yeah.
We should probably get into our rosters, huh?
Heck yeah, man. Yeah. What do you got?
First one I'm going to talk about is one that was actually on our last episode. My Crom Tevesh.
Yeah, the last minute Crom Tevesh.
The last minute Crom Tevesh. I like making last minute changes. Crom Tevesh, otherwise known as Girthy Grixis for Big Boy Winter.
Oh yeah, we'll have links, by the way, to all of these decks down in the description, so you guys can
we'll
check them out. Yeah.
So Crom Tevesh, 2 5-mana commanders. So it's Girthy Grixis. Crom Tevesh has been putting up numbers recently. So this is one of the decks that I was like, maybe I should try a meta deck or something that's like more in the meta than Fringe cEDH.
Yeah.
And this really appealed to me because I am not a turbo player.
Oh, okay.
Like I could play turbo.
I know that about you.
I could play turbo. It's just I'm not a fan of the all-in game plan unless it's doing something very specific, which is another deck we'll talk about. But I do like having that ability to do things in the long game.
Sure.
Or if I get stopped, I want to have that backup plan, and that's why I like the more mid-range.
And for those who don't know, what do Crom and Tevesh do, and why would you pair those two up?
Crom Tevesh. Crom is a 5-mana commander. It is 3, a blue and a red for a legendary creature zombie horror, a 4/4. And has flying haste, and whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. And it has partner. So Crom is really there to draw you cards, smack face. You know, it's really just there for the card draw, that ability of casting second spell. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell, you draw a card.
Right. I also noticed your Crom is signed.
Yeah. My Crom is signed from the last convention I was at.
Oh, that's cool.
So I was like, I like getting signed cards. I think they're nice additions, you know. The art in Magic is amazing and the artists are great, so you know, getting their artwork signed is, I think, a really fun thing to do.
For sure. Yeah.
And then Tevesh, 4 and a black for a legendary planeswalker with 4 loyalty. His +2 is to create 2/0/1 black Thrall creature tokens. His +1 is you may sack a creature or planeswalker. If you do, draw 2 cards, but then you draw another card if the sacrifice permanent was a commander.
Can I stop you right there for a second?
Yeah.
So you're never sacking Crom to this, right?
Almost never.
Almost never.
5 mana is so hard. Like you don't want to play it,
Right.
sack it, and then have to cast him for 7.
So the one card he gives you from that second ability is enough, right?
Is enough, yeah, because you're going to be generally getting a couple of those.
It's one of the biggest questions I had when looking at stuff like this.
Yes, Tevesh, usually you're going to be plussing him first and then sacking your Thralls or sacking any other creature you have on board that already did its duty.
Yeah. Duty.
Duty. And then his ultimate is -10. So he starts with 4 loyalty and each other ability +2 then +1. His -10 is gain control of all commanders, plus all commanders from the command zone, and put them onto the battlefield under your control. So his -10 just swings games.
Yeah.
You steal every commander, even if they have it in the command zone, you're just like, no, I'm taking everything.
Nuts.
Which includes himself, which is a rules thing.
Huh?
So if he, yes. So this is something that I brought up to it. We have a friend who's a judge, Jer. Shout out to Jer.
Yeah,
she's really cool. But if you kill him with his final ability of -10, you put him to 0. State-based actions will check after the cost, and he'll go into the command zone, and then he will be gained control of by his own ability.
Whoa!
And so it puts him right back onto the battlefield.
So you ult him, and he dies, goes to zone,
and then you put him right back onto the battlefield with his own ability.
That is sick.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So you get him up to 10, and that's why you don't want to plus him over 10, because then you sack him, and then you can get him back on the battlefield, and then you can use him again immediately because he's a new object. Yeah.
That's insane.
Tevesh is amazing.
That's insane.
And the reason he's in here is, first of all, it's the card draw, it's the second ability, that +1.
Right.
As well as there's some lines with Displace Your Kitten. If you're manually storming off, you can just keep flickering him, making a Thrall, and then drawing the card, and then flickering him, make a Thrall, then draw a card. Like,
right.
It's amazing. But yes, the main win lines in this deck are Breach, Thoracle, and some Displace Your Kitten stuff. Okay. But that really just draws you Breach or Thoracle.
Right. So that classic Grixis win con. The two best win cons.
Grixis pile.
Yeah, 2 best win cons in the format. There's no,
Yeah, that's why Grixis is, I don't even think arguably the best 3 colors in the format.
Hot take, it's Esper, actually. Excuse you. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. Yeah, Esper is doing a lot right now. I don't know. I think Grixis is still king.
Yeah, I still
Esper's got a lot of good things, but Esper really only has what Tivit and Tim to Malcolm. Like
we're gonna bring up an Esper deck, so I'm a little bit biased. But my rosters is an Esper deck, so I don't know. But if Grixis is the king, I think Esper's definitely the queen. At least. Like
Esper's definitely up there. I just think having that acceleration of red.
Oh, for sure.
Really just puts you up there. Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, if we're going through the list in particular, at least so there's a generic Grixis list. Some hot takes I like personally are like Flush Duplicate over Femage, because if you are ever wanting to target it with a bounce spell and it's a Dockside, and you can just keep doing that over and over.
Yeah.
There is also Phyrexian Metamorph, which is not a lot of lists are on because they're also on Adnaz, but Metamorph is arguably the best clone in the format right now.
Yeah.
Because you can clone someone else's One Ring.
That's definitely relevant too.
Yeah. Dualcaster for Dualcaster Twin Flame.
That's an interesting one I wanted to ask you about, actually.
Yeah.
Like, why that? Like, do you really need that resource? Like,
Well, a lot of these lists are running Counterbalance top.
Okay.
So Counterbalance is, what is it, double blue?
Yeah, Counterbalance is double blue.
Double blue enchantment. Whenever a spell is cast, you may reveal the top card of your library. If it has the same mana value, counter that spell.
Yeah, whenever an opponent casts a spell.
Is it opponent specified?
I believe so, but we can look it up really quickly. We should do that.
And then Sensei's top is 1 mana artifact for its pay 1, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Okay, so Counterbalance is opponent to cast a spell.
Yeah, whenever opponent casts a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, counter that spell if it has the same CMC as the reveal card.
Or
CMC's
mana
outdated.
value.
Yeah. I'm old, so.
I like CMC better. So Sensei's top, it's 1 mana artifact. 1, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order, or you can tap it, draw a card, and then put Sensei's top on top of its owner's library.
Yeah.
So those two combine so that you can always look at the top 3 and then put the one that you want on top and then reveal it for Counterbalance. It's more of a control combo. I don't like it. I think this list shouldn't be playing more control. Like, you have a lot of removal and interaction, but I think this should be more going towards your combos and like stopping other people rather. Like, I know you don't want to go full in on the control, and so I figured having that extra combo of Dualcaster Twin Flame, because they're both not dead cards. Twin Flame can copy any of your value creatures for a turn, which is amazing because this list is also on Hullbreaker Horror. Copying a Hullbreaker Horror.
Yeah, it's over. It's done. That's it. That's game.
And then Dualcaster, you can just copy, like, it's a protection piece. If someone's trying to counter you and you have 3 mana, you Dualcaster, copy their counter. You can take an Adnaz. You could take any good spell. Really, someone tutors on their turn and you have that mana, you're like, I'll tutor as well. Like, I think Dualcaster is great even without the combo. If we go on to sorceries, there's not much on this list. Mist of Lorien is the one that I think is the spice pick in sorceries. It's 2 and a blue for a sorcery with Replicate. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and every other permanent or every other non-land permanent with the same converted mana cost as that permanent.
And what does Replicate do?
Replicate is it's Replicate for a blue, so every time you pay that Replicate cost, you copy it, and then you'll have multiple copies on the stack.
Gotcha. So
I did this actually in a tournament one time where I replicated it twice, and so I was able to bounce all 1, 2, and 3 drops from the battlefield back to their owner's hands.
That's sick.
And especially with 5 mana commanders, you're never going to target a 5.
Is it sorcery speed though?
It's sorcery speed though, but the big thing about it is it bounces a whole bunch.
Yeah,
you can if someone's dockside looping or has a bunch of like treasures off a dockside, but there's a blind obedience out, you target one of the treasures, they get all bounced before it goes back to their turn, so they can untap them.
Oh, that's cool.
You can bounce all of your 0 mana rocks back to your hand to start storming off again or casting it again with a kitten.
Okay.
A dockside, you can bounce your dockside and your clones and all that.
Right, yeah.
And somehow you also bounce their Drannith, and like it's
that's
because you're hitting every single 2-drop on the battlefield. If you do that, it's great. I think, and putting, I don't know, say like 5 mana. That means you have 3 copies on the stack, and you can target all 1, 2, 3. You can target 0, 1, 2. Like, as long as you're just bouncing everything, and with your commanders, you're never going to target 5.
And that's relevant too, right? Because we're in a very heavy creature meta too.
So I think it's a really relevant card right now. I think it's good. I think not a lot of people are putting putting a lot of thought towards it, but I think it's a really good card.
You're on Beseech. Are you also on Necro too?
I am not on Necro.
Okay.
I am on. I'm on Beseech for mostly for the One Ring, for Breach, for Thorkel, whatever I need to get at the moment.
Okay.
It's usually a One Ring.
It's fair, and you have the tokens because Tevesh. Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's easy. Okay.
Yeah, Tevesh always makes a token to bargain.
Yeah. That's
Instance, there's nothing really niche in here. Mystic Reflection is the only one, which I don't see a lot of like other blue decks running, but a lot of Tevesh Kroms are because of that interaction with Dockside, which we talked about in our last episode, where you get to make double Docksides.
That's so sick.
And then artifacts, it's a ton of mana artifacts because we are on Adnaz and we are on Displacer Kitten. There's some stacks pieces in there with Curse Totem and Defense Grid is just to be able to protect yourself because we're not in silence effects. And then, the main 3 enchantments you'll see in every blue-red deck, Mystical Mora, Mystic Steady, and Underworld Breach.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's a generic Grixis list. There are just some few spice picks thrown in there to make it, I think, more my playstyle and more of a fun deck. Because if you look at Grixis, you're thinking Inala, you're thinking Rogsai, Turbo Naz, and it's just like that's not my style.
Yeah, you're not a turbo guy.
I'm not having fun if I'm trying to Turbo Naz. I think that's more of a tournament thing.
Right.
And most of my games are not tournament games, so I don't want to be going for that every time.
Gotcha. Okay, well, cool. That's a sick deck, Mason. Now we're going to talk about the deck that I played last time, Dargo Thrasios.
It is a very, very, very cool teamer deck.
I think so. I think it's sweet. One thing with this too is after the tournament, I think I'm gonna need to take a break. Just some background with this. Like I was playing Tasker, I said this last episode, but I was playing Tasker for a while and I found my last tournament performance with Tasker wasn't, I top 16 one time with Tasker back in August of 2023, and then I did another tournament in October or November, somewhere around there. I don't quite remember, but I didn't do as well, and I felt a little discouraged. I was like, maybe the meta's just too fast. Like, I don't know, Tasker's just not getting me there. And so I'm like, what deck, has a similar strategy? Because I love Neoform effects. I love sacking a giant thing in the command zone to get a bigger thing. I'm like, okay, well, what options do I have then that's a similar strategy? And Dargo Thrasios was recommended to me, and I was like, okay, let me take a look at this. For the past 4 months, I've been grinding this.
For 4 months.
For this tournament we just did. I've been obsessed. I haven't played any of my other decks in my roster. I've just been going all in on this because I was really trying to prepare for this tournament coming. And overall, I was very happy with my result. I didn't top 16. I was really close. Going 2-3 in a 140-person tournament, definitely not bad. So the Commanders, just to talk about the deck in general and why I think it's similar to what Tasker is doing. Tasker, for those who don't know, he's real quick, just 5 and a black. He's a 4/5. He has Delve. His activate ability doesn't matter. Okay, it's 2 and then Simic for you can mill the top 2 cards of your library, then you turn an on-land card of an opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand. That's what it does. So someone's using that ability, but usually that's an infinite mana outlet, and then because Tasker has Delve, he's easy to cast. You Neoform him. We talked about this last time. You get monsters, right? So Dargo Thrasios is that effect, which is split up on 2 different bodies, essentially. Okay. So you have my nice, beautiful, full art commanders here. You have Thrasios, who is a green and a blue for a 1/3 Merfolk Wizard. You tap 4, and then you scry 1, then reveal the top card of your library if it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, draw a card. So you look at the top, scry first, which is kind of cool, gives you that selection, and then you reveal the top card. If it's land, goes to the battlefield tapped. If it's a non-land, it goes into your hand. You draw it. That's an infinite mana outlet. If we can make infinite mana, we can sink all of it into Thrasios, and we win the game.
Yeah.
Right? Similar thing with Tasker. And then we also have Dargo, who is a 6 in a red for a 7/5 pirate, giant pirate with trample.
He's a giant.
He's a giant pirate with trample, 7/5. People forget he has trample too. Like I've had situations where it's been really stacksy and I'll cast Dargo and beat people's face with a 7/5. It's just really funny to put someone on a 3-turn clock like that. Oh, yeah. But his main thing that matters is, as an additional cost to cast him, you can sacrifice any number of artifacts and or creatures. He costs 2 less for each each one that you've sacrificed this way, and 2 less for each one you have sacrificed.
Ooh.
So there's a bit of math there.
Yeah.
But there are situations where he pays for his own commander tax.
Okay.
Yeah, so the point is we're using Dargo as a payoff piece to outvalue our opponents in an effort to assemble an infinite mana combo to sink into Thrasios. If we can do that, we're going to win the game. Even if there's a Bowmasters, we can win the game, because once we present infinite mana, we activate Thrasios once, Bowmaster trigger.
We put another Thrasios trigger
activation,
on the stack.
and then you cast Born, win at instant speed over the Bowmaster trigger. So Bowmaster doesn't stop us. Curse Totem also doesn't stop us because of how we assemble the infinite mana, the main line, which I'll get into right now. So here's how you do it, okay? The main plan, this is the main line, this is Plan A.
Plan A.
We get Dargo out there, okay? Usually, the easiest way to get Dargo out there is Dockside. So Dockside is the card we're leaning into the most here. So we're going to cast Dockside, which is a 1/2 pirate, and he enters. You create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control.
Yeah.
This card is nuts.
It really is.
This deck abuses it because every treasure we sacrifice because of Dargo's ability makes him cost 2 less.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing is you cast Dockside, you make a bunch of treasures. This deck can go off with a Dockside count of as low as 4, provided you have 2 extra mana. Because what you do is you sack 3 of the treasures, you make Teamer, right? You spend 1 red for Dargo, because he costs 1 at that point, because you just sacrificed 3 things. Yeah. And then you're going to be Neo-forming the Dargo with the other 2 to get Tidespout Tyrant, which is a 5/5 Djinn. He has flying, costs 8 mana. That's why we use him instead of Hullbreaker, because he costs 8. Okay. And then whenever you cast a spell, return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So we've Neo-formed Dargo at this point. He's also sacrificed himself, so he'll pay for his own commander tax. Yeah. He costs 1 red, so we use that.
Cast it. Okay.
Cast it. Upon cast, you bounce Dockside to your hand. Cast Dockside. Return Dargo to your hand. Cast Dargo for 1 red because he's in your hand. Yeah. Cost less, right? And you just keep doing this. And you make infinite treasures. And then from there, even if they have a Curse Totem out, you just end the loop, you cast Dargo or whatever, and then you just use Tidespout's ability to bounce the Curse Totem, and you can win from there. Okay. So unlike other lists, Curse Totem does not stop the deck. People think it does, but it doesn't, which is kind of cool. So that's Plan A. Plan B is to do manual Stormlines with Kitten, which maybe you could explain that when we talk about our next deck a little bit more in detail. Yeah. But that's the Plan B. We'll get to that. Don't worry. And then Plan C is Honorable Breach. So if Honorable Breach is your Plan C, if Honorable Breach is your Plan C, you know you're cooking with some gas. All right. Yeah. So that's the main game plan. So going category by category here, going into the creatures, some card choices that I have done a little bit differently for this list is I was debating heavily whether to be on Dorks or not, because a lot of, there's another version of this list that's more proactive, that's trying to win first, that doesn't run Dorks. It wants the mana right now. It wants to put the mana out and use it right now. Okay. I found that the more proactive I play in general, playing Magic, I can politic a lot less effectively, because if I'm the one holding the gun, how can I convince people that I'm not a threat? I can't. You just gotta come out swinging. You just gotta go out blasting, right? So I can't do that. I literally
we don't negotiate with terrorists.
No, exactly. And to me, when you do that, when you play proactively like that, you got to be really, good at politicking that, or just say screw politicking. I'm just gonna go for it. Yeah. I don't like doing that. It's not for me. So I'm on the win second, more grindy version. Okay. So I'm running things. I'm running Dorks because Dorks can be neo-formed into Dockside. The Dorks I run are Birds of Paradise. Basically, any Dork where the payoff is better than its toughness, because Bowmasters is a thing. And although Bowmasters doesn't stop our win, it does kill our Dorks. It does That's kill the biggest threat that it poses, in my opinion, to us, because we don't pay our life for anything else, and we can always politic people to point the triggers at someone else. So, I'm running Birds of Paradise. It's 1 toughness, but it makes 1 mana of any color, so that's worth it to me. Yeah. I'm running D-Halfling because it's got a booty. It's got 2 toughness, so it makes it a little easier.
The only reason anyone would run it now, I think, or the only reason it's being run. I mean, well, it also is good with the Cavern of Souls effect.
It is, but not the only reason why that effect is good for this list specifically is just for Dosen. Yeah. because we get outvalued really easily by a lot of farm decks, being able to just be like, okay, uncounterable Dosen, everybody else has got a full grip.
What is
Can't deal with
Dosen?
me. Dosen is Green Abolisher, dude. He says players can only play spells during their own turns, and he's a legendary creature. So when you cast it with D-Halfling, it's uncounterable, which is kind of sick. So it's pretty cool. That is relevant. I might change this line in the future because, like I said, I'm taking a break from this deck and I want to try out some spice when I do come back. So that might change. But D-Halfling Dosen is something specifically that I've really been championing and I like it a lot. The fact that D-Halfling taps are colorless, I don't care because I have no problem making green in this deck, which is what another green dork would make. The 2 toughness is just so worth it for me. It does matter right now. But like I said, I might change it because I'm taking a break from this list for a while because I've been grinding it just way too hard. I'm on Seaborn over... I'm on Seaborn over
Consphinx, right?
Consphinx, that's the one. Seaborn lets you untap all your permanents that you control during each other player's untap step, and it's 3 and 2 green for a 2/4 spirit. Consphinx is a 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue. It says whenever an opponent draws a card, you draw 2 cards.
For a 4/6 flyer.
For a 4/6 flying Sphinx.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet. The reason I think Seaborn is better here for my list specifically, because I know other Dark Thasios prefer to have Consphinx in the slot, is because I'm already running cards that make Seaborn really good. Like Kinnan, I'm on Kinnan Basalt, because I was expecting a lot of Kinnan this tournament, and I faced one every round except for one.
That's crazy.
So yeah,
I faced a single Kinnan.
Really, bro?
Yeah.
I faced him so much, and just to be able to threaten a win attempt with a clone was just so sick. Because you come on Basalt, right? Because I was expecting Kinnan. That might change, by the way.
Yeah.
But I was expecting a lot of Kinnan for this tournament. I saw a lot of Kinnan. So being on Basalt, Monolith, and Kinnan makes Seaborn use cool because the Basalt, you can just use it as vanilla Basalt without the Kinnan, and Seaborn qualifies that decision.
Yeah.
I'm on Training Grounds instead of an extra dork, just because making Thrasios' ability cost 2 less can help us grind a little bit better. It is not essential to our game plan. Training Grounds might be an old-fashioned choice that I go for, but every time I've used it, I've never been upset. Because we're using dorks for Thrasios activations anyways most of the time, or to Neoform, so I don't know, like, I was able to keep up with a Thrasios Bruce deck in the tournament because I had this effect, and it makes your Kitten lines way more consistent, which, again, we'll talk about Kitten Storm in a bit, but it makes your
big build-up for Kitten Storm.
Exactly. We're gonna get there. But yeah, Training Grounds is just like an extra Kinnan for that line specifically, so I think it makes it way more consistent, and I won with it and presented a lot of wins with Kitten Storm lines in this deck during the tournament because they're very hard to stop. Other than that, it's a pretty standard Dark Thasios list, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I run the Wheel of Fortune because I have to, not because I want to, because sometimes you just need to fill up.
You really need it sometimes,
Really explosive deck. You just need it. Let's see, what other spicy things am I on? Not a whole lot of spice. I tried testing a lot of spice, but I just never found any fruit with it. I just didn't like the more practical version, and I didn't like a hybrid version, so instead I have a win second version that can pivot to grinding or still present the explosive wins that the deck can do with cards like Greater Good, like I talked about last time, where for just 1 red you can loop Thrasios over and over and over, not Thrasios, Dargo over and over again, sorry buddy, Dargo over and over again to just draw a bunch of cards, and you're presenting a win so easily with that, like Jewel Lotus, 3 Dargo red mana to draw 21 cards, and discard for
Jewel Lotus draw 21.
Excuse you?
What'd you say?
What did he say? Yeah, so that's really cool. I'm on 26 lands, including City of Traders. I just like it for the Thrasios activations, pairs well with my Training Grounds.
It's great.
26 was enough for me. So that's my Dark Thrasios list. Yeah, it's called I Would Ship Them, but one's a Triton True Hero Wrecker. That pirate's a giant red flag. It's a description. That's the name of my deck.
That's great.
So yeah, that is Dark Thrasios in a nutshell. Grinding this for months. Happy to take a break, but there's another teamer list on the horizon. You want to tell us about your next deck, maybe?
Yes. Actually, reload that page. All right, so This next teamer list is probably my favorite cEDH deck to play right now. At the very least, right now, it's my favorite cEDH deck to play. Because I'm a Storm player.
Yeah.
So this deck is called Krark Tank. I'll offer you double for 50%. It is Krark Thrasios. Now, it's not a Thrasios with red deck. It is Krark with Cynic. This is a tried and true Krark deck, Storm shenanigans. It's not the most consistent, but man, is it fun! But it will give you a headache. It gives me a headache. When you're going through your lines and you're like, oh god, there's so many options. What can I do? Yeah, the general game plan of the deck is to put together storm lines where you're manually storming until you accrue enough value that you can either deterministically or non-deterministically somehow make a high enough storm count to kill the table with brain freezing them out, grape shotting them out. You can swing with a huge Veyran if you really need to. But yeah, the main game plan really is just getting a high enough storm count to grape shot and kill the table, or reoccurring some spells just over and over. So if we go section by section, in creatures, this deck, even though it's a storm deck and it's a Krark deck, there are 21 creatures in this deck. Not a lot of dorks. There are some reducers. There's like a goblin, a narcomancer to reduce, because that is a dork that basically taps for more than one. The deck, I'm running birds because it's the best dork in the format, arguably, since it taps for any color. And then there are some like Krark doublers, Harmonic Prodigy, Veyran, Tavern Scoundrel is just a helpful piece. Roaming Throne, one of the newer pieces. Roaming Throne is great because you can name Goblin, which will double up Krark, as well as Dockside ETBs.
That's gnarly.
You cast a Dockside, you get double ETB.
That's
great. But yeah, the list is Teamer Storm, Displacer Kitten. So Displacer Kitten is one of the biggest pieces in this deck. It is.
You want to explain the Kitten line? We're both on the same line, by the way.
Kitten is 3 and a blue for a 2/2 creature, cat beast. It has Avoidance. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, exile up to one target non-land permanent you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So there is a manual storm line with Thrasios and Displacer Kitten, where you have a Dockside on the battlefield. You cast a non-creature spell, flicker your Dockside, get enough treasures to spin Thrasios, hopefully find a cheap non-creature spell to cast, flicker Dockside, spin Thrasios, and you can keep doing that until you find stuff you need. Usually, I'm not going for that, but that is because, like, if I have a Displacer Kitten out and then I have a Spell Seeker out, it's over. I Spell Seeker for a flicker effect, and then I can keep going over and over and just keep twinning these up, or Spell Seeker, Imperial Recruiter, Eternal Witness, anything I can flicker with Displacer Kitten. That's why the deck is huge on it. Some lists are on Seedborn. This one is on Consecrated Sphinx. So like his teamer list with Thrasios had Seedborn, which is a more grindy version, more Thrasios version. This is more Storm all in. Sphinx, we were talking about this, just got changed up actually recently before you convinced me.
Yeah, it's definitely
Sphinx draws more cards overall if I'm not on Training Grounds, and I'm also not on Basalt. I'm on Kinnan, but no Basalt.
Why is that?
Because Kinnan just gives you so much mana. You're going for the Dockside, you're going for like anything. You just get all the treasures. Stormkill Artist is amazing in this deck.
Yeah.
Whenever it's a 3 and a red, it gets +1. It's a 2/2 creature, Dwarf Shaman. It gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control, and it has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, create a treasure. So you cast a spell, create a treasure off Stormkill. If you win your card flip, you copy the spell, create another treasure off Stormkill. And so you're making a ton of treasures off of it, and then with Kinnan, all your treasures crack for 2, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, so you guys can see, like, in the Kitten Storm line, how Kinnan can be great because he doubles the Dockside treasure value when you flicker Dockside. And so for me, like, Training Grounds in my list is a second Kinnan in that line, makes that line a lot more consistent. And that line is, in Dark Thrasios, is a little bit better just because all if you get one Dargo payoff, you're drawing so many cards. Like, as we saw, you're neoforming into a Tide Spout and winning on the spot. You're going completely insane.
Kitten is nuts. Yeah. Kitten is an amazing card in any deck with red.
Yes, especially when you have Thrasios there, because you can just manually keep triggering it.
Personally, that's why it doesn't work as well in this list. The Kitten is amazing in other ways. Yeah. If we go to sorceries, something that's interesting that this list is on is Land Grant. It's 1 and a green for a sorcery. If you have no land cards in hand, you may reveal your hand instead of paying Land Grant's mana cost. Search your library for a forest card, put that card into your hand, and then shuffle your library. So this does a bunch of things. One, it gets you your lands because we're on Storm. We need our lands. We want to make sure that we're getting them. It ups the Storm count for free. And it gets a forest. It doesn't get a basic forest. So you grab Breeding Pool, you grab Trop.
So revealing it from your hand is still counting as casting?
Yeah, you reveal your hand to pay its mana cost. And put it on the stack. And then if you lose your card flip, you can just keep casting as many times until you get it.
Oh, I see.
Because you've already revealed your hand. It doesn't matter if they see it. Yeah. So Land Grant is great for just getting that land. It gets you blue. It gets you red if you really need the Tiger or the Stomping Ground. But it's just a free way of upping that Storm count and making sure you're hitting your land drops. So you can hit a no-lander or a one-lander, maybe a way to get Krark out, like maybe a Jeweled Lotus and a Land Grant, you keep it, because then you can just keep casting with Krark out until you get 2 forests into your hand. Because when it resolves, you get double lands.
Gotcha. That's sick.
Yeah.
So how many lands are you on then? Are you on less lands because you have Land Grant? Or?
I want to say I'm on 28.
Okay.
I could go lower. I'm finding that 28 is perfect with Land Grant.
Okay.
Because it feels like I'm not hitting enough land drops anyways. Oh, okay. I want to be able to hit them.
You feel like you're starving for mana sometimes?
Yeah. The list, the main big things in these sorceries are Neoform and Eldritch. If you resolve one, you basically win.
You get 2?
Because you get double.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you resolve one Neoform on a Krark, and then you get Burgi, you get Ewit, you get Imperial Recruiter for Dockside, you get Veyran. Like, you can get any number of these creatures that combined. If you have a Kitten in hand, you get Imperial Recruiter Spellseeker, because those two will just win the game with a cat. Jessica's Will is nuts in Krark. Double Jessica's Will is just amazing. 2 in a red. Choose one if you control commander. Choose both. Add a red for each card in target opponent's hand, and then exile top 3 until in turn you may play them.
Yeah.
So doubling that up is just nuts. In terms of instants, so the deck really thrives in these niche instants. I'm running, the deck usually runs Emerald Charm, which Emerald Charm is a 1 green instant, choose one, untap target permanent, destroy target non-aura enchantment, or target creature loses flying until end of turn. So in here, it's to make sure your opponent's flyers aren't hitting you. No. In here, it's you untap Gaia's Cradle most of the time.
Okay.
You pay 1 green. You tap Gaia's Cradle for 3 or 4. Pay 1, untap it. You can have 2 untaps on the stack if you have a Krark out and it wins the flip.
I see.
I have used it on more than one occasion to destroy a Rhystic Study because it destroys a non-aura enchantment. So someone has a Rhystic Study and you're like, I'm about to storm off, pop your Rhystic Study.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because Rhystic Study can kill your deck.
Yeah, it does 2 things, which is great. 2 things that I need. The third one, but so we're not talking about that. It's on Flicker effects like Essence Flux. I think that's the only one right now. The big card that I think is great. Having any Krark with green deck should run this. Manamorphose. 1 in a hybrid red-green for an instant. Add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Draw a card. It's just a free draw 2.
Draw 2, yeah.
And then if you pay 2 mana, it rituals you if you win the Krark flip into 4 mana and you draw 2 cards.
That's dope.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Another really niche tech that not a lot of people are on is Flame Vaynor.
Right, and
Flame Vaynor is nuts with Krark.
I tried it in Dargo Thrasios, and then as soon as I saw it in yours, I was like,
it's built for this.
It's so much more for that. I'm just running Blast Act instead.
Yeah. I don't want to kill the creatures all the time because I have low to the ground commanders that I want to have out all the time.
Right, I don't care. I just need a dock so I can TP pretty much, and payoff.
Yeah, Flame Vaynor, so it's a 1 blue and a red for an instant. Choose one. If you control a wizard, as you cast the spell, you may choose 2 instead.
They're
things
both
are,
wizards too, which I didn't realize.
they are both wizards. So either one of your commanders makes it 2.
That's so
With
sick.
Krark out, if you copy the spell, it's nuts. So the modes are: target player draws 2 cards, destroy target artifact, and Flame of Anor deals 5 damage to target creature. So you have the draw cards. You can pop a problematic artifact, or you can pop a problematic stacked creature or something. So
2 stacked pieces, draw 4 for 3.
yes, it's nuts.
That's insane.
I've done that.
Against me.
I did that against you. Yeah.
It was sick.
3 mana. Okay, I'll draw 4 and pop this and this.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. Love this card. Let's see. If we go down to artifacts, of course, Krark's Thumb is the necessary for any Krark deck.
Even just for the flavor too.
Yeah, just for the flavor.
You gotta tickle your casual sometimes, inner casual players sometimes too.
Speaking of tickling your inner casual player,
Oh yeah.
enchantments.
Yes.
Oh man. So these enchantments, some lists are on it, some are not. Personally, I think these are great, and I can't wait to test them out. I just slotted them in because I want to be able to test these out. I see some lists are on them. So we have Song of Creation, which is 1 green, blue, red for an enchantment that says you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever you cast a spell, draw 2 cards. At the beginning of your end step, discard your hand. So discard your hand, that sucks. But 4 mana, play this, you get an additional land, and whenever you cast a spell, draw 2 cards is nuts in this deck.
It's insane.
Manual Storm, you're just like, okay, cast a spell, draw 2 cards. Oh look, the spell goes back to my hand. Hey, it's a free spell, cast it again, draw another 2 cards. Oh look. And just going with that, you can draw so many cards and have so much gas that if you play this on a turn, it's a game-ending turn. It's basically add-ons, like... Well, I say basically add-ons. I mean, essentially, if you get enough of these free or low-to-the-ground spells, and anyone, as long as you can either lose the Krark Flip or have another one in hand by the time you win the Krark Flip, then it's great. Another...
You just can keep going.
Yeah, it's gas. The reason there was, like, Storm decks built around it, but... Speaking of Storm enchantments, Possibility Storm. That's nuts.
What does this do for you?
So 3...
Because I know folks in casual hate this card. Some people, because
it's used as a stacked piece a lot.
Yeah, right.
It's used with Rule of Law with Draneth, and you're just like, okay, none of your spells resolve ever.
But what does it do, first of all? I think it's important to say.
Yeah, so Possibility Storm, it's 3 red for an enchantment. Okay, this is a wall of text. Whenever a player casts a spell from his or her hand, that player exiles it, then exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a card that shares a card type with it. That player may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then they put all cards exiled with Possibility Storm on the bottom of their library in a random order. So, with Krark and a Possibility Storm, you can cast a spell, trigger both, put Possibility Storm on the stack first, then Krark, so Krark resolves first. If you lose the flip, the spell you cast goes back to your hand. Then you flip from the top of your library until you reveal a spell that shares a card type, so like an instant or sorcery. You flip another one, cast it for free, trigger Krark again, because Krark does not specify cast from your hand.
Yes.
It just says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, and so you trigger him again, and then if you win the flip, that goes back to your hand, or you copy that spell, and you can cast the original one again, and you just keep churning through your deck of all instants and sorceries.
We were talking about this before the episode, but like I feel like they designed Krark to not be abused like this. Like it was supposed to be like a fair.
It was supposed to be a casual spellslinger commander.
Yeah, it's super fun, and then no.
Krark is very abusable.
Yes.
However, he's not consistent enough to be in the top realms of cEDH, but I think he's very fun. And then in the lands, we just have Gaia's Cradle, Minamo, as well as Deserted Temple to untap Gaia's Cradle. And then Minamo does that double effort of untapping the One Ring.
Your deck's on the Eternal Witness, Snap, Infinite Loop 2 for infinite mana.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Eternal Witness, Snap, Gaia's Cradle is amazing in the Thracios list, I think, because nothing's dead.
Yeah.
You're going to want Gaia's Cradle, you're going to want Eternal Witness, you're going to want Snap.
Yep.
There's no dead cards in that combo.
Yeah, I've never been able to assemble it yet, but like I'm waiting someday.
Oh yeah, it's great.
It's like playing D or E.
It's playing D or E, but you know what? It's gonna be there one day.
It's like assembling the 5 pieces of Exodia. Like once you get there,
that's how I feel about this Mystic Reflection with Tevesh Side. Dockside Mystic Reflection. Make 2 Docksides. Once I hit that, I drop this deck forever.
Yeah,
it's gone. But until I hit that, this deck is going to be played.
Pretty casual folks watching, like, this is one of the reasons why you play cEDH. Like, the combos are just so insane, and they make you feel so awesome.
And you can do whatever you want in cEDH. You don't have to play the blue farms. You don't have to play the Tibbets.
Right.
You can play whatever deck you want, as long as it has, like, a somewhat decent strategy. Or
it's
like
meta-conscious.
It's meta-conscious, yeah. You don't want to just play whatever jank you want to play. Like, play something that you know, okay, it actually can do well in the current meta. And that's why you just do some research on it. But, like, you can do any strategy you want, really. I mean, there are Voltron decks in cEDH. If you look at, like, Jessica Dargo.
Yeah.
That's a one-shot deck.
Yeah, and, like, the cool thing is, too, like, for us, too, like, the decks later in our roster, too, are, like, very niche, kind of silly, meta-busty, atypical stuff. Like, we're going to get into that in just a bit, too. Okay, so next up, we're talking about a deck that is near and dear to my heart, or becoming near and dear to my heart. It's brand new to the roster.
Yeah.
It's a concept that a friend of mine sold to me, and now we're dabbling in the realm of the experimental when it comes to cEDH and kind of like the realm of the new and unexplored, right?
New and unexplored.
So I guess I'll start off by telling you who the commander is. But actually, no, before I tell you who the commander is, here's the thing. I was like, I really want to play Esper. I just said that one day. Esper,
You just really wanted to play Esper?
I did, bro. I wanted to play the Silence Effects. I wanted to play Grand Abolisher. I wanted to play Ranger Captain. I wanted to play Black Tutors also. And I wanted to play Blue. And I was like, I think my favorite 3-color deck might be Esper. Even if Neoform is my favorite effect, my favorite colors are undoubtedly Esper.
Yeah.
I just love...
I completely get that. Culling Ritual is my favorite card, and Teamer are my colors.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah. I was like, if I played Esper deck, I'll be in heaven. But here's the thing. For those of you who aren't aware, the main Esper deck right now is called Tibbet. That's number one.
Tibbet.
And I do not want to play Tibbet. Tibbet is a giant sphinx. A lot of people are playing it, and I didn't want to play Tibbet. And then people recommended, you can play, Esper Farm, which is Timna and Malcolm. We'll put all these cards so you guys can see, but I just wasn't vibing with any of this stuff. And then a friend of mine said, hey, have you tried Rafine? And I'm like, Rafine? That's that one Sphinx demon, right? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, I haven't even seen that. Why is that even good? He was called, Rafine is busted. Trust me. That's what he always said.
Rafine is busted.
And the name of his deck was called Rafine is busted, guys. Trust me. And so when I built this deck, I named it Dave was right. She is busted.
Dave was right. She is busted.
Because she is. He completely sold me, so much so that I got the foil Art Deco treatment of the card.
Nice.
And I love this idea. So what's the idea? What's the main game plan? So Rafine, let's talk about what she is. She is a Sphinx demon for Esper, right? No colors, just 3 pips, white, blue, black. So she's unjeweled lotusable.
Yeah.
So that's the only downside I can see about her, because the rest of her is pretty awesome. She's got flying, she's got ward 1, and then the important part, whenever you attack, not whenever she attacks, whenever you attack, period, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So the attacking creature connives, and then the amount they connive is equal to the number of attacking creatures. So what is connive? Connive is when you draw and you discard. And then if you've discarded a non-land card this way, you put a +1/+1 counter on the creature.
Okay.
So if I connive 4, let's say if I attack with 4 creatures, I pick one of the 4 that are attacking, and that creature will connive X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So that'll be 4, because there's 4 attacking creatures. I'll draw 4 cards, I'll discard 4 cards, and for each non-land card I've discarded this way, it'll get a 1/1 counter. This is important, right? So why is that good? It gives you a lot of card selection. It lets you put things into the bin that you want there. So we're already entering the realm of the reanimator strategy. Right? Yeah. So let's start.
You already have that discard right there. So
exactly. So let me ask you, Mason, who can you think of that are some of the best things to reanimate? Let's start there.
In the format, best things to reanimate.
In the format, give me the tops.
Razaketh is number 1.
Really? Over Broodlord?
Yes.
Okay, why?
Because Razaketh tutors anything in your deck, two-hand. If you go for a Broodlord, you tutor. You still have to play it. It does give you a slight discount, but if there's a Dranith out, Broodlord doesn't do anything. Razaketh just goes straight to hand.
Right. Yeah. So Razaketh.
Razaketh, Broodlord are top 2 though for sure. I think.
Yes.
Maybe Hullbreaker Horror, Tidespell Tyrant are up there if you're going for the mana outlets. Abdul Adrian, that is like number 1 right now. It's the best. It's the New World Gorger combo.
Yeah. So here's the thing. In creature-based strategies, Razaketh's great.
Yeah.
Because you reanimate him and
which you're already in creature-based strategy with the attack.
With Rafine.
Yeah.
So now the question then is, okay, if Rafine lets us put Razaketh in the bin and get a lot of different good card selection, what kind of creatures should we be stacking to Razaketh?
Ooh.
And that's where the other arm of the strategy is.
Okay.
The creatures we're stacking to Razaketh are Stax creatures, predominantly rule of law effects. This is rule of law Rafine. So the point is, all of your creatures are really cool Stax creatures, and they also double as rule of law effects, and they're just incredibly oppressive. And then you connive all game, beating people down with either just raw commander damage, and or just the creatures, whatever you need. And then eventually Razaketh will hit the grave. You reanimate Razaketh, sack all of your rule of law effects to unlock yourself, and then Thassa's Demonic. So you tutor Thoracle by sacking rule
and
of
if you have enough effects or enough creatures on the board, you can sack for Thassa's, sack for Demonic, and then for protection.
Exactly.
That's great.
The silence, Grand Abolisher, like whatever you need to do, and it's really, really hard to stop. So that was Dave's idea with this, and so I was completely sold. I thought that idea sounded sick. I wanted a Stax deck because, like I said, in my roster, I want at least a mid-range, at least a turbo-ish deck, and then I wanted the Stax decks, and so Esper Stax was really appealing to me. So this is what we went for. That's the basic plan of the whole deck, is breaking parity on your Stax pieces to tutor. One of the best win cons of the format is just something I really like about this list that it can do. And we have another reanimation target in Abdul Adrian. I think you mentioned this. Yeah. And I'll talk about what both of our reanimations target do first, just to start us off. Yeah. So Razaketh, he's a 8 mana, so you ain't casting this guy. Yeah. He's flying and trample. He's got pay 2 life, sack another creature to search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle. So we stack a rule of law effects to him to tutor Thoracle console, as I mentioned, and protection if needed. Abdul Adrian is a 4 and a white. Again, we're not casting him. For a legendary human warrior, and when he enters the battlefield, you exile any number of other non-land permanents you control until he leaves the battlefield. And then you create a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each permanent exiled this way. So if you can reanimate him with an enchantment like Animate Dead, Dance of the Dead, or even Necromancy, if you reanimate Abdul, you can exile the enchantment and he must get sacrificed because that's how enchantment reanimators work. And then when he's gone, then the enchantment returns to the battlefield, you return Abdul, and then that loops over and over again, right? Because the enchantments say, when the enchantment enters the battlefield, they all say essentially the same thing. Animate Dead, Dance the Dead, and Necromancy is when the enchantment enters the battlefield, you choose a card in a graveyard, return it to the battlefield with the enchantment attached to it, and if the enchantment becomes unattached, you must sacrifice the creature. So you sacrifice Abdul. Animate Dead will return to the battlefield because you've exiled it with his ETB. And then when the enchantment re-enters, you get Abdul back. Exile over and over and over and over again. Sick. And so that will make you infinite 1/1s. And then if you have the One Ring, you can blink the One Ring to draw your deck. If you have a rock, you can get infinite mana. Crazy. So it's a really, really good win con, and waiting a turn cycle to attack with infinite 1/1s is definitely the backup plan. There's also another combo with Walking Ballista and Agatha's Soul Cauldron with that as well, because you're able to you're able to do some shenanigans, copy some abilities. I'll explain it one at a time because this is a lot. I'm just super excited about this deck. So let's break it down. Let's go line item by line item, and we'll get to all these really cool lines in this list. And I'll talk about the things that I offered to this list when I heard about it. So one of the things that I think is really important for this deck is, of course, the stacks creatures. You want to have the best stacks creatures in the format. And I've been looking at this pretty closely, so I was like, okay, who's really good? There's so many awesome ones. I have 34 creatures in this deck, which for cEDH is a lot of creatures.
Is a lot.
So Phyrexian Censor is a rule of law.
Yep.
Each player can't cast more than one non-Phyrexian spell each turn. Of course, you know about Ranger Captain. I also suggested Drana and Linvala.
Drana and Linvala is gas.
It's so good, right? Card. Yeah. So activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated, and it has all activated abilities of creatures your opponents control, and you may spend mana as lower mana of any color to activate those abilities. So good. And it's 1, 2 white, and a black for 3/4 flying vigilance vampire angel. So if we do our Abdul line and can make infinite mana, and someone has a Thrasios out there, now we can have a sync for that draw deck. So we can, with infinite mana and Drana and Linvala out, we can activate whatever we want to win the game that way. It's really, really, really cool. We have a spell scout in here to protect our pieces. That was Dave's suggestion. I also suggested Lavinia for this list, which is really good. Stopping free interaction is pretty great because you can't cast non-creature spells with mana value greater than the number of lands someone controls. And then whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, you counter the spell. That's not what that does. Let me reread that. So Lavinia says each opponent can't cast non-creature spells with mana value greater than the number of lands that player controls. So now their rocks aren't really ramping them.
And then whenever an opponent casts a spell,
if no mana was spent to cast it, it gets countered.
Yeah.
That slows down people a lot. And once again, if you ever are in a situation where you feel like I need to unlock people, you can sacrifice it because of this other card, which I think I'll talk about now, which is Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So how it works is creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. You can tap it to exile any card from a graveyard, and when a creature card's exiled this way, you put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control. Yeah. And so why that's relevant is we have creatures with activated abilities that require them to sack. Mausoleum Wanderer, you can sack it to counter an instant or sorcery spell unless its controller plays X, where X is its power. So you can make all your creatures Mausoleum Wanderers as long as they have 1/1 counters on them.
That's pretty nice.
You can turn Lavinia into that to counter people's spells. You can do the combo I mentioned with Walking Ballista by turning a creature into Walking Ballista, making infinite mana with the Abdel combo, and then sinking the infinite mana into Ballista to put infinite 1/1s on it, and then removing them, of course, to deal the damage. There's also things like Siren Stormtamer, which you can
pay one sack
it to do that stuff, right? Spellskite too. You can turn all your creatures into Spellskite if you want to. I don't think you need to, but it's something you can do just for fun, I suppose. So there's a lot of different ways to sacrifice your creatures. I also offered Boromir as a resource. You can turn all your creatures into Boromir, which makes you sack them and can make all your creatures indestructible in time to turn, and then the ring can tempt you. And then he also makes free spells uncastable by your opponents, so a lot of your stuff's asymmetrical. You're on Archon of Maria, you're on all these bread and butter stacks pieces, and also...
There's a spice pick right there. I'm seeing a Grazilax.
Yeah, so Grazilax is cool, because in this list, it's better Tymna. So Tymna, for those of you who don't know, whenever you deal damage to an opponent, right, you can pay life during your post-combat main phase equal to the number of opponents that were dealt damage, and you draw that many cards. But Grazilax is that, but he says whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may return it to its owner's hand, and whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So it's better Tymna, because I don't need to pay the life to draw the cards. It just happens with him. And if a creature I control ever becomes blocked, I can just return it to my hand. That's relevant sometimes, because sometimes you want to trigger Rafine's ability by attacking, and sometimes you're worried that they're going to kill the creature. But with Grazlax, you don't have that problem. You just go back to your hand, you can recast it, not a problem.
That's pretty cool.
One other thing I'll mention too about the Abdul combo I mentioned, Bowmasters also just wins because you infinite ETBs. Yeah, that's it. Couple other spicy ones in here. Archfiend of Ifnir is a sweet play. It was in Dave's original list, and he was thinking about cutting it, and I said, don't do it. The card's awesome.
Archfiend of Ifnir is gas.
Yes, it's so good.
Oh, man.
So just to explain what it does, because I don't think it goes in any other deck, but it's so sick. It's 3 and 2 black for a 5/4 flying demon. And whenever you cycle or discard another card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control. So every time you connive with Rafine, every card you discard, you put that many 1/1 counters on all of your opponent's creatures.
Yeah, you're wiping your creatures.
Yes, and that's on attack too. So before blockers are even declared, their creatures get to die.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, if it's in your hand and you don't want to cast him, it's got cycling too, by the way. so I don't know when that's gonna come up. It never has. Every time I've seen this card, I've just been so excited to cast it. And I when I first built the list, I was able to put it to paper before Dave was. He played it against me, and he dropped the Archfiend, and he was just loving it. He's like, this card's so cool. I'm like, yeah, it's great you didn't cut it. It's awesome.
It's a really good card.
Adeline's another nice one too, because it says whenever you attack for each opponent, you just make a 1/1 that's tapped and attacking. Yeah. So that's triggering Rafine an extra 3 times for 1 and 2 white.
That's great.
It's nuts. It's nuts. Yeah, so you can run all this good stuff. Glenelendra is a cool include because you can, of course, it has Persist, and it's 3 and a blue mana. It has Flying 2/2. You can pay a blue, sack it to counter a non-creature spell. The Persist will come in. It'll get a -1/-1, but the cool thing is, when it gets the counter, you can connive onto it, and then the 1/1 counter goes away, so it continues to do that.
Yeah,
and then
that's pretty cool.
For some reason, if it does die, bro, you just Agatha's Soul Cauldron it away, and then all your creatures can be a Glenelendra with 1/1 counters.
Jeez.
And yeah, it's sick because Rafine also puts the 1/1 counters on the creatures too. It's not just the Cauldron putting on the counters, because how Connive works, they're going to be getting the counters there.
If you discard a non-land card, it gets a counter, right? Oh, man.
Yeah, so this deck is sweet. I love it. Couple of things here. Sorceries, basic black tutor package. We got Imp Seal, Demonic Tutor, and Diabolic Intent, which is helpful. Sometimes you want to sack a Rule of Law effect to Diabolic Intent to tutor a win. You got Reanimate. Of course you do. It's a Reanimator list at heart with a lot of stacks. Your interaction suite is mainly just counterspells, silence effects. I am running Path to Exile over Swords because I think people are too greedy and not running enough basics.
Yeah.
And I don't care if I give them a basic because you're not going to be able to cast a lot of spells, right? Because we have Rule of Law effects. I do care about them gaining the life though, because if I'm on a stacks beatdown plan, in times where for some reason I can't get my win, I don't want their life to be super high. I'm also on Shouldered, so pressuring
the life totals. You'd rather Path than Swords like an Atraxa or something where they're just gonna gain a bunch of life.
Exactly, yeah. In this list specifically, yes. I don't care if they ramp; they can ramp all they want. They're only casting 1 card a turn, 1 spell a turn. Like they're so limited. I'm on Soul Partition instead of Swords, so I'm not on Path and Swords. I'm on Soul Partition because with things like Dryneth Magistrate,
Soul Partition is great.
They just don't get the card back. You use it on a commander. It's just awesome. It's just super flexible. It's 1 and a white. Exile a non-land permanent for as long as it remains exiled. Its owner may play it. And a spell cast by an opponent this way costs 2 more to cast. So it can also protect your own stacks pieces. Like let's say somebody wants to get rid of your Rule of Law or something, and for a win on their next turn or whatever, or however they want, you can use the Soul Partition to exile it and then cast it for its normal mana cost. Because the 2 more to cast only applies to things that your opponents want to cast that you've exiled with this. So, yeah. And then the artifact suite, we're on Wishclaw, which is really cool in this deck too. Just because, you can sometimes all you need is just that one card, the one reanimation spell. You've been conniving so much, and just having that extra option for tutor. Don't need to go too much in on the Witch Claw. It's loved by many.
Yeah.
Agatha's Soul Cauldron, superstar in this list. One of the reasons why I'm even playing it, because I love this card in this deck. Just being able to turn all your creatures into the sack stuff is great. You've got your Animate Dead, your Dance of Dead, all your enchantment reanimation for the Abdul line, like I mentioned. You've got Rhystic, Mystic, of course. And we're on Blind Obedience. We're on Blind Obedience among other artifact enter tappers things, which is quite cool. And then, of course, we're on 27 lands, which is low for a stacks list, but again, like, you don't really need to rip a whole lot of lands off of a Fiend. All your stuff is relatively cheap, and you're only casting one spell a turn, so you have time to draw your lands, because you're cycling through your deck super, super quickly with your Fiend. You're drawing and discarding so much that your density of lands you can afford for that to be lower here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the list. What do you think?
I think it's pretty cool.
Is this the next best Esper deck, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know if it's the best Esper deck.
Come on.
Yeah. I don't know if this is the best Esper deck.
Okay, maybe not. But hey, it's really fun, really cool, and I think it's got a lot of potential.
It's a very cool deck, though, I will say, and there's a lot of like really niche interactions in there, which I love.
Yeah,
that's part of the reason I love cEDH.
I would say also this is my most casual friendly deck, because casual folks, myself included, just want to play their stuff.
Yeah,
have fun, and that's what.
And you're just saying, hey, you can play your stuff just one spell at a time.
Yeah, one spell. And while I connive and make my creatures bigger, so it scratches your inner tinny, it scratches your casual chill and stuff. It scratches your reanimator stuff, which I think is a cool casual stuff too. Reanimating stuff is something fun I love to do in casual. So yeah, it's just really sweet all around.
Okay, this next deck. So this one is called TNT is for Boomers.
I wonder who the commander is.
This is Atraxa. This is the deck I've been playing for a while now. I'm not really vibing with it. It's probably coming apart. I like having it for now, and I played it over this last 6 months to a year. It's been fun. Big green deck at cEDH. It's not necessarily my style, though. The description of this deck. She grand on my Atraxa till I unify her.
Dude, it's so good. Like, it's funny. If you guys click on the link in the description, you can see that Mason specifically requested in the title, check the description. Because it's just so good.
So looking at the list, and in case anyone was not aware, Atraxa is a 7-mana 7/7, so 3 green, white, blue, and a black for a legendary creature, Phyrexian Angel, with Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, and Lifelink. And when Atraxa enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. You may put one card, for each card type, you may put one of that type into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So it draws you a lot of cards on ETB, and it's just a huge beater. Yeah, the deck mainly wins through food chain, through just looping Atraxa to draw your deck and then casting a Thassa's into an empty library. Its Thassa's Consult is also in there. That's really it's Thassa's like that. Yeah. This deck is all just Thassa's wins the game.
Dig for Thassa's, right?
Yeah, dig for Thassa's. The deck also has like Teferi, Displace Your Kitten, to draw your deck. The spice picks in here aren't really like, there's not a lot. It's generally just your 4-color pile of cEDH staples. It is on 3 clones though. Fimage, Flesh Duplicate, and Phyrexian Metamorph, because any extra Atraxa ETB is great.
Oh yeah.
It's also on Talion for card draw, which I think is becoming a staple in blue-black.
I think so too. Yeah, I'm liking Talion a lot.
It's on, Grand Abolishur, Quetzil. I have some dorks, but only the good ones. Birds of Paradise, Deathrite, Delighted Halfling, Noble Hierarch. That's the creatures are just generally like good stuff. The sorceries are tutors, M-Seal Demonic Tutor. You got an Eldritch in there, which I think grabs any creature once even Atraxa out, but really what you're trying to go for is Displacer Kitten. Because Displacer with Kitten with Atraxa just wins the game.
Yeah, it does.
You're digging 10 cards deep, you're going to find a cheap spell to cast, Flicker Atraxa. 10 cards deep, find a cheap spell, Flicker Atraxa. And you just keep doing that, it's GG. Until you find your combo. Culling Ritual, my favorite card ever. This is the only deck I have that plays it because I don't think I have any other green-black decks. So that's like one of the reasons holding me back from taking it apart just yet. Culling Ritual is gas. It's 2 black and a green for a sorcery. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. So you just wipe the board for 4 mana and get a ton of mana.
Yes.
As long as you've got a blue and a white open, you just Atraxa and get 10 cards and see what happens from there.
Golgari Dockside.
Yes. Culling Ritual, I will say, I have Culling Ritual for 50 something at one point, and that was the best. That was the most amazing Culling Ritual ever.
That's awesome, dude. Well, I noticed you're also on Beseech the Mirror at a 4-color list.
Yes, Beseech in 4-color. Really, it grabs the food chain. It grabs the Mist Hollow. It grabs whatever I need to win the game, and black mana isn't all that hard to make in this deck.
Okay.
I'm on Dark Ritual. I'm on a lot of like black producing lands because it's.
What do you bargain?
I have a ton of artifacts and enchantments that I could bargain.
Okay.
I'm on 12 artifacts, 5 enchantments. I can bargain any one of those.
And you're willing to because
I'm 100% willing to.
Because Displacer Kitten's just GG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just GG.
Yeah.
It grabs me that cat, and I'm just like, okay, it's GG.
That's it.
I will bargain away my risk. I've done it. I've bargained away a Ristic Study to get cat.
Yep.
And it's just GG. It's generic instance, Esper with green or Sultai with white, however you want to look at it. It's good stuff in these 4 colors. Nothing too spicy. There's Born Upon a Wind, Abrupt Decay I think is gas.
Yes.
Black-green, destroy a non-land permanent with CMC 3 or less. It can't be countered.
It's one of the things I miss about playing Sultai is I love Abrupt Decay.
Abrupt Decay is so good.
It's so great.
Especially in this grindy meta. Uncounterable is amazing. Artifacts, I'm on some rocks, Felwar, Talisman. Nothing too nuts there. Enchantments are really where it's at. This deck, what it wants to do early game is where it's the weakest because it's such a big CMC commander and you're relying on it for card draw. This deck wants to find a value engine and just sit on it. So any hand that can turbo out a Mystic Remora, a Ristic Study, a Smothering Tithe, that is 100% a keep. You get that out early and you sit on that value engine in the game until you can get your tracks and go for your win.
That sounds like what Esper's doing. It sounds like Tivit with green.
Yes.
But the ETB is crazy.
The ETB is crazier than Tibbet's ETB.
Yes. For sure.
And then 28 lands. Nothing too special in there. No Gaia's Cradle because it's not like a fully green deck. So it is like more like Esper with green, I guess.
For those of you, I don't know if we said this at the beginning, but we want to do one of these rosters every season, right?
Yeah.
So if this was on your winter roster this year, if it doesn't make spring, why not? What would make you take this apart? Because I know you're saying at the beginning you're not super into it, but as you're explaining it, like this deck seems pretty sick. Like you got
it's a really good deck.
Yeah.
It's not. That's the thing is it's a really good deck. It's just not my style. I think is the whole sitting on a value engine and waiting.
You don't like that?
No, I like doing things.
I
And
see.
so I have fun with the deck when I'm winning because I'm doing things. I'm casting spells. I'm flickering with a Displacer Kitten. I'm food chaining. I'm doing things.
It's only fun if I win.
The deck is only fun for me when I'm winning.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I like casting spells. I'm a Storm player at heart. But yeah, it's doing all right. It's a very good deck and it puts up numbers. A lot of people are putting up numbers with it.
Sick. Well, I would be sad. I would be sad to see it go. But but if you're playing this deck because you only have fun when you win,
yeah, I should probably play something else.
probably something else. Well, Mason, I'm really excited to talk about this very last episode.
Oh, this deck is sick. Yes, this is the best deck.
Because we've been working on this together. This is our Meta Buster. We're gonna have a whole separate episode about this deck. So come check us out next week.
Next week we will
where we talk about it a little bit more.
Oh man, this deck is sick.
It is the Commander.
Yep.
Is one that I pulled in a draft pack when I was drafting Dominaria United. And I was drafting it, and I played terribly, didn't place very well. But one of the cards I pulled in that draft was Braid's Arisen Nightmare.
Yup.
AKA Turbo Timna.
Yeah, Braids is 1 and 2 black for a 3/3 legendary creature Nightmare. At the beginning of your end step, you may sack an artifact, creature, or enchantment, artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker.
Anything,
basically any type except for battle. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life, and you draw a card.
Yo.
Yes.
This effect is so sick. It's Ancestral Recall at your end step.
It really is. It's Ancestral Recall every end step for Braids.
It's so dope. And unlike Rafine, where it's going slower, it's not Jeweled Lotusable, Braids is very, very Jeweled Lotusable.
Dark Ritualable.
Dark Ritualable.
Any ritual. Oh man.
Oh dude, we gotta put that in a short too. Like just a Dark Ritualable.
Dark Ritualable?
Yes, that should be a thing. So this deck is scary. So here's the thing with it. The meta, right? The state of the meta right now. We'll go more into this later.
Speaking of the state of the meta, I'm looking at a card right here that needs to be swapped out.
No, well,
we will have to talk about that on the deck tech.
Next week's podcast, come tune in where we discuss how to make this deck even better than it already is. So the cool thing, so why, right? Why Braids?
Why Braids?
Yeah, why Braids?
Is the question we should be asking.
So, the thing is, why is Blue Farm good?
It draws you a ton of cards.
Draws a ton of cards, okay? So, I was thinking, okay.
More cards, more good.
More cards, more good. On paper, right?
Yes.
But what if it's only one of the colors? Right? It's only one of the colors. Is that sufficient?
All of the colors.
All but one. The only one that matters is black, which is my favorite color, by the way.
Okay.
I think black is my favorite color. Every time I don't play it, I miss it. So I mean, it's my only mono black deck in the roster, so it must be my favorite.
Yeah.
So
it's your only monocolored deck.
So BBF, all right, is the abbreviation here. Braids Black Farm. To specify, because it really is Black Farm. It does exactly what Blue Farm does, but it's just faster draw, less colors. That's the point, right?
Yeah.
So the meta, like, it's the only turbo-ish deck I have in my roster, and the reason I'm saying turbo-ish is because the main game plan is turbo out card draw.
Yep.
And then sit back with your handful of cards and win at instant speed. So the way you do that is with instant reanimator spells, and you reanimate Trazyn. Yes.
You know what we can put in the description?
Huh.
In response, I win.
Oh, dude. That's sick. I'm actually gonna change that right now. In response, I win. Yo.
Yeah, because that's what the whole deck's trying to do.
Exactly.
You're trying to win? Oh, okay. In response, I win.
Because we can't counter stuff. We're in mono black. So,
yeah.
So the point is you turbo out your card draw, you draw as many cards as possible, just get as much as you can into your hand, and then you're going to discard whatever you need to assemble the following combo. Trazyn the Infinite, which is a 4 and 2 black artifact, legendary artifact creature. He's a Necron. Shout out to you people who love Warhammer. He's 4/6 with Death Touch, and he has Prismatic Gallery.
What is Prismatic Gallery?
Oh, okay, yeah. So as long as Trazyn is on the battlefield, he has all activated abilities of all artifact cards in your graveyard.
Okay.
So he does exactly what Necrotic Ooze does, but the reason why we're on Trazen instead is for a really specific reason, which I will say right now.
For an extra line.
For an extra, so yeah, it's
Because Necrotic Ooze is only creatures and Trazen is artifacts.
Okay. And there's a reason why we're doing artifacts over creatures. So the line is you have Trazen, you reanimate him at instant speed with various instant reanimator spells.
Yeah.
You have Phyrexian Devourer in the bin, which is a piece of shit creature.
What the fuck is this?
So you remove the top card of your library from the game to put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the card's mana value.
Okay.
And if its power is 7 or greater, you have to sacrifice it. But Trazen only copies the activated abilities,
not the static
abilities. So that's why, he can stay alive even if his power gets more. And then you have Walking Ballista. So the point is you exile your whole deck to put that many counters on Trazen, and then you remove the counters with Walking Ballista's activated ability, which is remove a +1/+1 counter from Walking Ballista, deals 1 damage to any target. Trazen gets both of those abilities when you've reanimated him to exile your whole library to kill everybody. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Which is really sick.
It's a really cool way to win. Yeah,
it's awesome. And the reason we're on this artifact package instead of the traditional Necrotic Ooze package, like what you see in a lot of Keurig lists, is because of Disciples of Gix. So Disciples of Gix is a sweet card in this list. It's 4 and 2 black, and when it enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 3 artifact cards, put them into your graveyard, and then shuffle. So it's buried alive for artifacts on a creature body, so you reanimate that to assemble that. Other than that, you have other cool reanimation targets like Hoarding Broodlord in that line. With Saw and Half, you Saw and Half the thing, you get the Sacrifice of the Peer in the Abyss, draw your deck. Woo, yeah. There's also another line with Trazen. Pilipala, which is a 2 mana flying, tap 2 and untap it to add 1 mana of any card to your pool. It's going to be black mana, and if we have a Soul Ring or a Mana Crypt or whatever, we can, and if he has haste, which a lot of the instant reanimator spells give him haste, you can just use that to assemble infinite black mana and then sink it into the Walking Ballista's ability to put the infinite +1 counters on him, remove them all, kill everybody. You can also win that way. So yeah, we're running a lot. That's basically the main game plan. We're running a lot of really cheap, stupid artifacts. We're running some really cool stuff like Hopeless Nightmare. You want to talk about that because that was your inclusion.
Hopeless Nightmare. It's a 1 mana enchantment that when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. When it is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, scry 2, and you can pay 2 and a black to sacrifice it. You're never gonna do that though. You play it, you make each opponent discard, they lose 2 life. Then you go to end step, you sack it, you get to scry 2, and you draw 3 cards.
Yes, but you scry after the draw. That's the thing, because you have to finish resolving Braid's ability, but it's still awesome. You set up your next turn. It's a really good Necropotence deck too, because you get to pay all your life, then sack the Necro to Braids.
So that you don't discard into exile.
You discard your graveyard, you can reanimate. So this whole deck is supposed to win at instant speed. We're on 25 lands for a really cool reason.
Which we can talk about in the deck tag.
We're going to talk about the deck tag. We're not going to spoil why, but you're on 25 lands. We're going to talk about this deck more in our next episode. But
in our Braids deck tech.
In our Braids deck tech episode. But for today, that's all we got for you guys. Those are our winter roster.
That is our winter roster
for 2024. It'll maybe change in the spring a little bit for both of us. Maybe we'll see Atraxa still there.
Possibly. I don't think that's gonna happen.
But anyways, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate you being here and listening to us rant and rave about our favorite decks. And Mason, do you have any other thoughts?
Just thank you guys for tuning in, and stay tuned for next week so that we can do our Braids deck tech.
Awesome. We'll see y'all next week. See you next week. See ya.
Come on in and sit on down. There's plenty of room all around. Just bust out your cards and take a seat. Come on and play some cEDH with me. Come on in and sit on down. There's plenty of room all around. Just bust out your cards and take a seat. Come on and play some cEDH with me.